Thanks very much, Gordon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emma Moloney, and I work in the research division at the University of Tasmania here in Hobart. And today I'd like to speak about reimagining ethics pre-review. On behalf of the University of Tasmania, I acknowledge all countries participating in this meeting and also acknowledge their elders and ancestors and their legacy to us. I acknowledge with deep respect the Palawa people, the traditional owners of this land, Lutruwita, on which I live and work. So today I would like to speak about some challenges that we have experienced for ethics pre-review and how we have worked to overcome them with technology, and also touching on the impact of making this change. I would like to start off with a little anecdote to get you thinking. I'm sure you have all heard the saying, give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. I'd like you to keep this in mind during my presentation. Let's see how we can connect the dots between fishing and ethics pre-review. We are in a unique situation at the University of Tasmania, as our HREC is the only NHMRC registered HREC in the state. So we receive a really wide range of applications from external organisations like the Department of Health and Tasmania Police. The content of these applications are vastly diverse, and the ethical considerations are quite complex. We receive on average 360 applications per year and hold roughly 35 committee meetings per year. We have a team of wonderful ethics officers who work to support our researchers, chairs, and committees. Our ethics officers conduct a pre-review, which involves providing guidance to applicants before they begin their applications, triaging them onto the correct form, and conducting an initial administrative and ethical review. This may involve requesting further information from the applicant or flagging issues for the chair and committee to facilitate their review. After the changes to the national statement earlier this year, we noticed an increased traffic of inquiries and confusion from applicants. We have heard from applicants that information about the application process is incredibly difficult to locate, and navigating the ethics process in general is difficult to navigate. It also became apparent that the ethics officers were spending more time directing traffic and triaging applicants, and less time actually reviewing an application. The shift in this workload had quite an impact, as we had limited people resources available. So it became clear that we needed to make a change in order to move forward in a sustainable and effective way. So we found ourselves asking the question, how can we reimagine ethics pre-review? Can we make the most of technology to overcome these challenges and free up ethics officer time to allow for a more considered ethics review? Initially, we spent some time reviewing the resources we already had available for applicants. Most of this guidance was in the form of big slabs of text that was quite onerous for applicants to read and obviously wasn't working well. We needed to rethink how we offer advice and support to applicants. We engaged in a process of environmental scanning and had a look at how other institutions are working in this space. This was a really useful exercise, actually, and it was inspiring to see the awesome resources that others have put together. We decided to develop an interactive decision support tool to help applicants self-serve and quickly figure out how to get started with their application. It was our hope that the tool could alleviate confusion and time sinks in the pre-review process. Our new process looks a bit like this. The applicant is first directed to the decision support tool online. The tool presents the applicant with a series of simple yes/no questions. The tool then provides a recommendation for the type of ethics form required, the associated review pathway, and links them to some essential resources. So this really supports researchers to navigate the ethics application process and self-triage, if you like. The questions in the tool also get the applicant thinking about ethical considerations prior to beginning their application and engaging with our ethics office. So, how did we do this? At our university, we have an ethics tier review framework that is informed by and sits on top of the national statement. This framework underpins the type of review that different types of research and different submissions require. We took these two documents and began to create a flowchart that would serve as the background logic for a branching logic tool. We faced a few challenges in developing this flowchart. It actually took about 3 months and several iterations to get it where it is now. One of the main issues we came across was in determining what recommendation the tool would actually provide. We receive a lot of inquiries from applicants trying to determine the risk level of their project. So we explored if it was possible to build this into the tool. But after a lot of brainstorming, we realised that as risk exists on a continuum, we could not design a tool that could give an accurate risk recommendation for all scenarios and without asking the applicant to answer over 20 questions. So we pivoted and prioritised the tool providing a recommendation on which form to submit and the associated review pathway. It was important that we asked the applicant the minimum number of questions before giving them that recommendation. So the sequence of our questions became important, and getting this right took some time. Once we finalised the flowchart, we replicated it in a branching logic tool called H5P. We then customised the user interface and set up a public link for the tool to be accessed from. This was a very collaborative process. We co-designed this tool with our team of ethics officers and committee chairs, and it was fantastic to see how the rich knowledge of this group and diversity of their experiences came together to develop quite a robust tool. I'd now like to give a brief demonstration of the tool. Okay, so here we have our landing page for the tool. It's a very simple interface for applicants to navigate. The tool begins with a glossary of terms that appear throughout the questions in the tool. And for the purpose of this exercise, perhaps we can pretend that I'm conducting some research. I'm conducting a lower risk study. I want to survey people in the community with a cognitive impairment about the cost of their medical services. So yes, I am conducting research. This research is conducted with people. We'll say yes. My study has not yet received ethics approval, so I'll go ahead and say no here. Now, I do think my study is lower risk, as I don't think my survey contains any risk of harm. So we'll say yes. And here we have the question which lists some of the groups from section 4 of the national statement. And as I mentioned, I would like to survey people with a cognitive impairment. So we will say yes to this question. Here we have our recommendation. So we've been advised to submit a human research ethics application that will be reviewed by the committee. We're being referred to some specific resources, as well as the committee meeting dates and our ethics platform to submit the application. The final part of this tool is to show the applicant an approval workflow tailored specifically to their recommendation. The workflow is a simple way to explain the steps to approval and provide reassurance on what to expect in this process. I'm going to return to my presentation now. Implementing the tool has reduced administrative burden and created efficiencies in our unit, really making the most of ethics officer time and skills. The tool empowers applicants to self-serve and make assured decisions. And whilst the tool has been a big change to how we're used to delivering resources, we have found that it's a low resistance pathway for applicants being able to obtain critical information, giving them a quick cut through to get those answers they need. I would like to cast your mind back to the anecdote we began with. Now, I'd like to think that if we can answer an applicant inquiry, we can assist them with one application. But if we can empower an applicant to self-serve, we can upskill them and assist them with multiple applications throughout their research career. Tools such as this are complementary to the work of ethics officers, and I think that committees can expect to see tools such as this, and some AI tools perhaps, becoming more pertinent in this space. And I think that we should really embrace this. We're really keen to share our learnings here. Please feel free to access the QR codes to have a closer look at the tool and the flowchart. We hope that other institutions may be able to leverage off of our work here and reimagine their own ethics pre-review processes. I'd also like to thank my co-authors, Tammy, Emma, and Heather, who have been instrumental in this work. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions, Gordon.
Thanks so much, Emma. Great work, actually. I really enjoyed that because, as I say, I think it's just a great demonstration of how we can improve the efficiency of ethics review. And I really like your point about using the skills of administrative staff as well. I was going to be cheeky and ask about how you've reduced administrative burden because they're all buzzwords, but I absolutely take the point. Now, a couple of questions. I think hi August from Marchese from the ACT has asked whether it's yet been incorporated into New South, this sort of thing has been incorporated anywhere else, for example, into New South Wales Research Ethics and Governance Information System, or is this still copyrighted within the University of Tasmania and still under development?
It's a great question. At the moment, this tool is just being used at the University of Tasmania and for Tasmanian research. And that's just because it's been structured around our ethics tier review framework that I mentioned. But I do know some other institutions across the country are doing similar things, and I can't see why it couldn't be incorporated into some of those platforms.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting process. So how do you deal, Emma, with in the question about are you doing research in relation to, say, quality assurance activities? And this is from Chris Amsant.
Yeah, that's a great question and something that we have had a little bit of trouble with here. At our institution, we don't currently have a pathway for non-research activities. So we do find if people are getting stuck at that first question, are you conducting a research, that they're actually contacting our ethics office and receiving some specific advice from the ethics officers um, about what's necessary for their project.
And maybe a final question, Emma, just noting the time. When we developed the Human Research Ethics Application Form back in 2017, roughly, we were very clear that even though researchers could tell us if they thought it was low risk research or more than low risk research, the decision was not actually made by the computer. It was made by the ethics officer. So have you found any instances where researchers have used the tool, gone ahead with the application, only to find that when it comes to the human interaction, that human interaction dictates that in fact the wrong level has been selected?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gordon, and something that we really tousled with in creating this. Currently, we are using the HREA for all of our human research ethics applications, regardless of risk. So we've designed the tool to direct applicants to the HREA, regardless of whether they're doing lower or higher risk research. And then within their application, they can make that selection. And it's still in the ethics officer's remit to review that and assess if that's accurate. Yeah.
Look, that's obviously a really difficult thing to judge because even as recently as yesterday, myself and my deputy chairperson had different views on whether something was or wasn't low risk research. So, um, and as Nick points out, the logic isn't sufficiently there yet to be able to judge that. I don't know, Nick, if it will actually ever be there because I feel you need that human interaction and taking Colin Thompson's points into account about diversity of views. It's very hard for one person or an AI to make that decision unless it represents a multitude of views. Emma, wonderful prezzo, and really appreciate you taking the time because I think it just puts into context for those online how we can actually use AI to hopefully make our lives simpler. And I will be interested to see if other entities are using this in the future. Emma, thanks so much for your prezzo and great job.
Thanks, everyone.